How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dan School here again today, back once again with another Conquest video for you. Today, it's not going to be a 30-minute video. Last week's video was very long at 30 minutes. This week's going to be a little bit quicker because we've got a lot of pages of how to build, or relatively speaking, we've got a lot of pages of how to build and how to paint. So, there's less lore and stuff in there. Well, that's for a good reason. It's because we've got so many cool miniatures with the magazine this week. So stay tuned and we'll take a look through the pages of issue 56. So, issue 56 of Conquest is upon us. What do we get with it? We get 8 Space Marine miniatures. Now these are all Primaris Space Marines. We get 1 Ancient, which is like a banner bearer dude. We get more information about him in there as well. We get 2 Lieutenants. And then we get 5 Intecessors as well. So, it's a lot of miniatures. It's a little difficult to value this magazine, as it typically is for the ones where you're getting a sprue from Dark Imperium. You could value it as high as £90. Space Marine character is £22.50, so you get 3 Space Marine characters, don't you? That's what, £67.50? And then you could put a price of £22.50 on the 5 Intecessors, because GW for a little bit did sell 5 Intecessors for £22.50, but that's a bit of an extreme valuation, I'd say. I'd say being closer to the mark, you're looking at about £30 for the miniatures in this issue. The way I've worked that out is basically if you were to divide the Dark Imperium, buy the Dark Imperium box, divide it up into different sprues and sell it off sprue by sprue on eBay, you could probably ask about £30 for this this particular sprue, because it's got a lot of good miniatures on there, 3 characters and a squad of Marines. Yeah, so anything from like £30 to £90, but let's go with £30. It's still a great saving. It's a saving of well over half. You're paying what, £7.99, so it's like a third of what you'd pay for these miniatures buying them separately. So great saving, as it is often the case with some of these Dark Imperium sprues. So what else did we get in the magazine other than these 8 amazing miniatures? We get Space Marine Reinforcements, that is the 8 amazing miniatures. And then we get Space Marine Ancients, and we get all new Battle Story. We've not had a Battle Story in a while, so let's turn the page and find out what we're getting on page 1. So page 1 gives us the information we need about Space Marine Ancients. It talks about how the chapter command is often protected by a bodyguard of veterans, and amongst them could be a Space Marine Ancient. A Space Marine Ancient is a particular veteran who's chosen to carry a company or a chapter banner, and it's a great honour to that Space Marine to carry the banner. And it's one of those things where, you know, if they let it fall, there's a stain on their honour. So they can't let the banner fall. They've got to hold it high and help rally the troops when times are dire. Turning the page, there's a little bit more information on the following page about Space Marine Ancients. And we get a picture here of a 2nd Company Ancient. The banner of the Ultramarine 2nd Company has witnessed countless victories. Onto the following page, we get a bit more chapter organisation for the Ultramarines, so this is interesting. We get the chapter command is Rabute Gilliman and Marnius Calgar. Marnius Calgar was, of course, or is, of course, the Ultramarines chapter master, and he takes command of the chapter, or the chapter masters have taken command of the chapter, when the Primarch is out of action or in stasis, as he was for many thousands of years. Rabute Gilliman, that is. He was mortally wounded by a demon blade that was wielded by the demon Primarch Fulgrim, and he was put into stasis immediately so that he didn't die of his wounds. And it wasn't until around about 9,000 years later, I think, that he was revived from stasis. He's given new armour, and he is again in charge of his chapter of Space Marines. And Marnius Calgar doesn't take a back seat though. He's still very much involved in the running of the chapter. We get notes on the armoury, on the apothecarium, the reclusium, and the librarius. So the librarius are responsible for keeping records of the chapter's history as well as being battlefield psychers. The armoury, the Master of the Forge, is a particular captain in the not just the Ultramarines, in most Space Marine chapters. Master of the Forge is in charge of the chapter's armoury, and he has tech marines under him that help maintain the vehicles and stuff like that. The Apothecarian are responsible for recovering the gene seed of fallen battle brothers and then re-implanting it into new recruits. And the Reclusium is basically the chapter's chaplains. They make sure the chapter sticks to the Codex Astartes, and that's it. They make sure they follow the company command structure and stuff like that. On to some of the companies to pick out. We've got the first company here. The Ultramarines First Company contains the chapter's most battle-hardened veterans. They are only called to battle in the most desperate of circumstances, and often go to war in chapter's ancient Terminator armour. Now, Primaris Space Marines don't fit in ancient Terminator armour, so what might they go to war in? Gravis armour, maybe? We don't have squads of Gravis armour Marines other than the Aggressors currently, but that could be one thing we see in the future from Primaris Space Marines, assuming further down the line some of the smaller Space Marine models, or the older Space Marine models, are eventually phased out. But will they eventually be phased out? It remains to be seen. At this stage, I think it's looking likely, but it's going to be a few years. They'll drag it out and sell a few more of those smaller Space Marine models, no doubt. Then the second company are led by Captain Asheran. The Ultramarines Second Company are considered foremost of the battle companies. They have a reputation for reckless heroics that has seen them disciplined by their chapter master several times. So when a chapter is extremely heroic and manages to save a planet from annihilation, if they do so recklessly and in a way that doesn't endangers the lives of Ultramarines, the chapter command, or the company command rather, will still be reprimanded by the chapter master. The Ultramarines are very strict on following the Codex Astartes and making sure all companies adhere to it. One thing to note, I wanted to point out here, was companies beyond the 5th company, so 6th company to 10th company, typically don't go to war as a whole company. What they tend to do is support other companies. So the 6th company, for example, are responsible for crewing the tanks and vehicles. And you'll see the tanks and vehicles, when they are fighting alongside the 2nd company or the 5th company, they'll have the livery of that particular company they're fighting alongside painted on them. The same goes for the 7th company, where they fly the planes and the aircraft, basically. And they'll, again, be painted in the livery of the company that they're fighting alongside. The 8th company are the Honour Blades. That's in the Ultramarines 8th company, the Honour Blades. Here, a Space Marine learns how to fight in a close support squad. He must master these skills before progressing to frontline battle company. The 9th company, they rarely fight as a single force, as I've just said. It is their role to provide heavy weapons support to the battle companies. They are equipped to undertake devastating long-range batteries and utterly destroy their targets. Again, the Devastators are a squad of Space Marines that have heavy weapons, where the Primaris Space Marines, there's not too many that wield these heavy weapons. We have special weapons like Hellblasters, the plasma guns carried by the Hellblasters, but we've not seen, I think the Suppressors, I think it is, in the Vanguard forces. They carry a heavy weapon, but I wouldn't class them as the same as Devastators. They don't quite fill the same battlefield role. So when we see more units coming out for Primaris Space Marines in the future, will we see one to replace Devastators? Will we see, or have we already seen some to replace Scouts? Which leads me on to the 10th company. The Scout company, basically, so all the new recruits are put first of all into the 10th company, where they can hone their tracking and subterfuge skills and stuff like that. But not only is the 10th company home to Scouts, but it's also home to a 100-strong force of Vanguard Marines. Now, the Vanguard Marines are the newer miniatures we've seen, and there's been some released in recent weeks by Games Workshop. You've got there's Sniper Marines, basically. They could be the Suppressors, actually. I'm not sure on the names. They're all quite similar, some of the names of these Vanguard Marines. You've got the ones with the sniper rifles, you've got the ones with the jump packs and the heavy weapons, and you've also got the Reavers, which have been out for a while now. They all fill sort of the similar sorts of roles to the roles that the Scouts fill. The Scouts, we've had one lot of them already. You can build them with a combat blade and a bolt pistol. You can build them with a shotgun, so that's like close support sort of terror tactics. Or you can build you can build them with a bolter as well. Go into the Sniper Scouts. They have sniper rifles and camo cloaks, which is what some of the more recently released Vanguard Marines have. So are they going to be phased out, the Scouts, or will we always have a Scout? I think in the lore we'll always have the Scouts, but on the battlefield and in real terms, I think they might eventually phase out that Scout model after a couple more years, I think, of getting a bit more money from it. Then it's on to the next page. We get the story, Raise the Banner High. This is a fantastic short story. Like I said, we've not had one in a little while now. It's a short battle story about the Grey Knights. We've not learnt too much about the Grey Knights so far, but they are a chapter of Space Marines who specialise in fighting demons. They all have psychic powers which they use against their enemies. It's a really nice short story about a banner bearer in the Grey Knights, so a chapter ancient in the Grey Knights. Make sure you read it when you get your hands on the issue. On to the next page is how to build Space Marine reinforcements. We've got a picture of the sprue there. It's a lovely big sprue, that, and it's got lots of lovely parts on it. The first page has got the 2 lieutenants and the sergeant on. The next page has got 4 intercessors on. And the final page is the Space Marine Ancient, the banner bearer, and a picture of them all assembled there. The Space Marine Reinforcements How to Paint section is a nice one as well. It's got 6 pages altogether of how to paint, and then, as always, on the last page it shows you a nice little picture demonstrating what your miniatures should look like if you followed the painting guide correctly. Then it's on to Defend the Colours, this week's battle report, or mission rather. This week's mission is all about the Ultramarines trying to defend their chapter banner. So we get to use the Ancient in this mission, and one of the lieutenants as well. Don't forget, earlier on in the course of the magazine subscription service, I think it was issue 5, we got Lieutenant Calcius, so we've already seen a lieutenant in action. We know they can be quite good. But we get to use, it doesn't say which one to use, but we get to use another lieutenant in this battle. The map laid out is the 2 maps side by side, the 2 warzone maps side by side. And the armies consist of the Death Guard have 3 command points: Lord Felkius, Tainted Cohort, 7 Plague Marines, Mephitic Blight Hollow, and 12 Poxwalkers. So in terms of size of force for the Death Guard, we've seen some big forces for the Death Guard recently. That's quite a small force. It is 1, 19, 20, 24 models for the Death Guard, and the Space Marines consist of 3 command points: Space Marine Captain, Primaris Lieutenant, 3 Hellblasters, so that's 5, 10 Intercessors, 15, an Ancient, and a Dreadnought, 17. So they're only 7 models behind there, the Space Marines. Space Marines are typically slightly more elite, so the numbers are slightly smaller than the Death Guard. However, I reckon this battle is going to be relatively easy for the Space Marines to come out on top. You could spice it up a bit by throwing in an extra unit for the Death Guard if you think they need it. I'd suggest putting the cultists in, so it's not something too powerful. But play it out as they suggest first of all, and then maybe spice it up with another character, maybe, or like I said, a unit of cultists. If the Space Marine Ancient is eliminated, remove the model and replace it with an objective marker. This objective marker represents the company banner and can be picked up by any model that moves into base contact with it. Models carrying the banner cannot shoot, advance, or charge. And for deployment, both players roll off. The winner can decide who deploys first. Players then alternate deploying their units, beginning with a player chosen to deploy first. Roll off again to determine which player has the first turn. The Space Marines have a deployment zone on the Sector Mechanicus map and the Sector Imperialis map. The Death Guard have a deployment zone on that. Both players gain 1 victory point for each enemy unit eliminated. Both players gain 1 victory point for eliminating the enemy warlord. The player that controls the banner at the end of the game gains 3 victory points. And the game lasts 5 battle rounds. So for me, if I was a Space Marine player, what I'd do is hold my Ancient back, and you get benefits from having the banner there. Just looking at the Primaris Ancient datasheet, units within 6 inches of friendly Ultramarines Ancient add 1 to their leadership. In addition, roll a d6 each time an Ultramarines infantry model is destroyed within 6 inches of a friendly Ultramarines Ancient before removing the model as a casualty. On a 4+, the model musters 1 last surge of strength before succumbing to its wounds. It can either shoot with one of its weapons as if it were the shooting phase, or make a single attack as if it were the fight phase. So you do get a slight benefit from having the banner close by to your units, but I'd maybe just try and keep the banner bearer out of the way of the Death Guard side. You look at the amount of firepower that the Space Marines have got. They've got the Redemptor Dreadnought, which has got it's got 1 Gatling cannon and 1 flamer. You could just send that to deal with the Poxwalkers, perhaps, or you could send the Primaris Lieutenant and the Space Marine Captain to deal with the Poxwalkers in close combat. Throw a couple of frag grenades into them before you charge them, and then charge them. The Poxwalkers can't fire Overwatch at you, so there's no risk of losing any wounds to Overwatch. The Primaris Lieutenant has 5 wounds, and the Primaris Captain, if I remember rightly, has 6 wounds, possibly 5. But you should chew your way through that unit quite handily with a Primaris Lieutenant, which has 4 attacks, and a Primaris Captain, which I think has 4 or 5 attacks. They've both got power swords as well, which is very handy in combat. Like I said, you should chew your way through that unit quite easily. And then the Redemptor Dreadnought and the Intecessors can deal with the Plague Marines, 7 of them, and the Hellblasters can then deal with either the Tainted Cohort and Lord Felthius, or the Mephitic Blighthauler. So I'd say it's weighted in favour of the Space Marines this mission. However, like I said, you could add another unit to the Death Guard side if you're finding the Space Marine players winning too easily, just to spice things up a bit. Okay, back onto the data sheets here. The Primaris Lieutenant data sheet. They've got a weapon skill, a ballistic skill of 3+. They move 6 inches like most Space Marines. They're in power armour, so we know what save that gives us, don't we? They have a leadership of 9. Then they can take a bolt pistol, a master-crafted auto bolt rifle. Let me just check what this says. This unit contains 1 Primaris Lieutenant. It can include 1 additional Primaris Lieutenant for a power rating of +5. Each model is armed with a master-crafted auto bolt rifle, a bolt pistol, and frag and crack grenades. Any model may replace its master-crafted auto bolt rifle with a power sword. Okay, so you can take either a power sword or a master-crafted auto bolt rifle, which is handy to know because we get 1 of each in this issue. Then they get frag and crack grenades as well. The power sword has a -3 AP, so you could send your power sword wielding lieutenant in to try and deal with the cataphractic terminators, but don't forget they've still got a 4+ invulnerable save as well. So it could be a waste of time sending them in because they've still got a 50-50 chance of a save, and then they've got disgustingly resilient on top of that. So I'd concentrate your shooting on them to just use weight of dice to try and make them fail as many rolls as possible. And then the Primaris Ancient has a bolt pistol, a bolt rifle, a frag and crack grenades, and of course the banner. Yes, let's turn the page, see what we're getting on the back cover. What we're getting next week, we're getting 2 new paints. We're getting Thousand Suns Blue and Temple Guard Blue. We're learning to paint plasma effects next week, so I'm quite excited for that rather. Looking forward to it. And then the following week in issue 58, we're getting a Space Marine attack bike and a new battle mat. Fantastic. This one is a spaceport zone, so I imagine the narrative of this mission, or the narrative of the missions from issue 60 to issue 80 will be about the evacuation of Corvan. We'll have to wait and see though, won't we? When we get to issue 60, we'll get that first chance to play with that new battle mat. I'll leave it there for now, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you on the battlefield.